Welcome back to another sophisticated Saturday where together we work through my to-do list and get stuff done around the house. Now today I've already kind of jumped into what I'm gonna be sharing a little bit during this video. I'm making blueberry cornmeal golden pancakes. There's some name, something like that. But there is a blueberry compote that goes on top. So I've already started preheating the oven. For the pancakes, you need to boil some water first. So I have my water boiling and we're gonna get started on that compote and get it in the oven and then right back to the pancakes. And there are so many other things I'm sharing in this video, so stay tuned.
I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. I'm trying to make this darkness go away. I'll paint with colors and I'll sing until my lungs give out. I'm gonna let the sun shine in today, and I will leave my windows open.
First up, Owen and I are cleaning up the bedroom. We played a little bit of peekaboo with my blanket there, and then I'm gonna hold him while I make the rest of the bed. It's getting a lot more difficult to hold Owen and do things one-handed because he's getting so big now. He's just over 6 months and growing and developing like a weed. I wanted to get started on the pancakes early because I wanted to have some of them for breakfast. So I started with the blueberry topping for these golden cornmeal pancakes. And all I'm doing is putting 4 cups of blueberries, a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and then the zest of half of a lemon will go on top of this. But the blueberries and the brown sugar go into the oven at 400 degrees on a parchment lined baking sheet, and they should cook for about 15 to 18 minutes or until the blueberries start to burst and start bubbling. While those get cooking, I'm adding 1 cup of cornmeal, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and mixing all of that together. Then I added in 2 tablespoons of butter and a cup of water in a saucepan that was boiling and added that to my mixture as well. Then that needs to be covered with a clean kitchen towel and rest for 10 minutes. So while it rests, I am going to empty the dishwasher and put my clean dishes away and take advantage of that 10 minutes.
So I can fly. Oh, and the darkness starts to fade. Feels like things are gonna go my way. I'm gonna let the sun shine in the day.
I love doing stuff like this, multitasking. I really like that the blueberries are in the oven, they're cooking. At the same time, I have the batter for the pancakes that's cooling, and then I'm getting something done at the same time. This is kind of a fun little game I play with myself. Sometimes I will do it when I am brewing my coffee. So I'll brew my coffee and then put away dishes, or brew my coffee and go over to the living room and fold the blankets and fluff the pillows, or make a smoothie, and while the smoothie runs, go do something. Just use those little everyday life things that can be a timer for you to get something quickly done while you're waiting for something else.
Oh, and the darkness starts to fade. Feels like things are gonna go my way. I'm gonna let the sun shine in the day.
Finally, once the cornmeal has cooled, you can whisk in the buttermilk. So I'm adding in 1/2 cup of buttermilk as well as 1 egg. Mix it up, add 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and then you'll need 1/2 cup of either cake flour or all-purpose flour. And I used cake flour here because I happened to have some. Now you just make the pancakes as usual. So I'm doing 3 or 4 at a time, as many as I can fit on there. And while the pancakes are cooking, the blueberry compote finished up, so I can add my zest on there. Again, just about 1/2 a lemon's worth of lemon zest, and then you will be done with your blueberry compote. So you'll see I've been working through those batches of pancakes, just 3 again, or 4 at a time, depending on how big I make them. I wish I had a larger griddle. That was something on our wedding registry that nobody ended up getting us. And I'm thinking with kids, it still might be something that we want to invest in so I can cook more pancakes at a time. Of course, I immediately dropped one of the blobs of blueberry there, but it was delicious. And I think these pancakes were really good, but with the compote on top, oh my goodness, were they delicious. Time to do a little quick living room pickup. It's baby central over here all the time, so throwing all of his toys in one spot, putting some away in the cupboard, and just cleaning up what I can. Then I'm gonna head upstairs. My makeup brushes needed to be washed. That was on my to-do list today. So I'm grabbing my baby shampoo and cleaning those one by one. This is one of those activities that I like to prop up my iPad and watch a TV show. I don't really listen to podcasts anymore. I was just about to say I listen to a podcast, but that's actually not true. It's been a long time since I've listened to podcasts. I used to listen to them a lot more when I would commute into work. And I would get so gripped into them that I would also find myself listening to them when I wasn't driving. And now I'm just realizing that I don't really do that anymore. I do use some TV shows as I don't want to say a podcast, but just a listening activity. I don't necessarily watch the TV. I just listen to it because I like to have the background noise and just have something going on, and I'm entertained by it. But I'm feeling like maybe I should get back into podcasts or look at what's out there that I might have missed. So I mentioned at the beginning that Owen is now 6 months. That means that he is starting to eat solids. And I am torn, I guess, on the feeding method that I want to do. My plan was to do a combination of homemade purees and baby-led weaning. If you are raising a child right now, you are probably familiar with that term. If you raised kids a while ago, or maybe have kids that are my age, you might have no idea what that is. I don't know why it's called baby-led weaning, because it's not necessarily weaning them off of breast milk at this point or formula, but the key part is baby led. So a lot of it is teaching the baby how to feed themselves. It's important in the baby led weaning philosophy to all sit at a table together and have family meals. It's kind of like the baby eats what you're eating, just in an appropriate way. So it's all about different ways to cut foods and serve it for your baby, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a separate food that you purchase specifically for your baby. Hopefully that makes sense. But a lot of it is giving your 6-month-old, when they first start eating, very, very large pieces of food. And the theory is it's so large that they can't break off pieces and they can't choke because it's too big. Solid Starts on Instagram has been a great resource for me learning about baby-led weaning. But again, I still wanted to do purees and do a combo. So that's what I'm making today, is making some baby food purees for Owen and sticking them in the freezer so I can have them whenever he needs some food. I can just pop some out of the freezer and let them thaw out. I'm doing a couple of different combinations. I'm doing some applesauce and cinnamon. You saw I had sweet potatoes and carrots and butternut squash roasting. I want Owen to eat things that I would eat myself. So I'm tasting some of the baby food as I go. The applesauce is delicious, by the way. I'm thinking of making a second batch for myself. But we had our 6-month appointment with our pediatrician, and he's not a fan of baby-led weaning. He said start with purees and then go from there and start cutting foods in very small pieces once he's ready for it, but kind of do the traditional path of purees. He's totally fine if I'm doing homemade purees, but doesn't like the baby-led weaning. So he did say there is no wrong way to feed a baby and not to stress about it and to ultimately do whatever we feel is best. But we're starting with some of the purees, and honestly, I had a lot of fun making them. You guys know I love to cook, so that's just one of the main reasons I'm making purees from scratch is because I cook everything for myself from scratch. Why wouldn't I do the same for my baby? But everything else is just about done roasting in the oven, so I'm going to pull it out and let it cool. And while it cools, head to the garage and do a tiny bit of planting. I bought some parsley and some oregano, and I'm going to put those into some of the couple of pots that I had and add those to my little potting bench that I have right in our backyard. So I have even more herbs to use that are fresh from our garden, I guess you'd call it, whenever I cook. I've shared in a couple of other Sophisticated Saturdays my planting of our large potted plants out front and what a fail that was. Actually, I shouldn't say it's a fail because they are surprisingly thriving, but Jim and I had no idea what we were doing. We didn't have gardening gloves. We were using our bare hands. I didn't have gardening gloves still when I filmed this, so I'm just using rubber gloves that we have, little latex gloves. We now have gardening gloves, have no fear, but it is still a little bit of a struggle. Although I am surprised with how well all of our plants are doing with knowing so little. The only issue I've had with my herbs so far is my cilantro. My cilantro started bolting. Had to look that up because I was like, oh my gosh, this cilantro is getting so big. I'm doing so well gardening because it was just growing up like crazy and looking so full. And then I realized that's not a good thing. It's called bolting, and that means the plant is basically dying off. It starts flowering, and it's the end of the life of the cilantro. So I did kind of fail there, but that's okay. It's just one out of all of the different herbs and vegetables and things that I have that didn't go so well. Now onto the other baby foods that I'm making. I'm going to scoop out the butternut squash now that it's cooled. I just wanted to wait so it was easier to use my hands and not burn myself. The Vitamix can easily handle hot liquids. I've made soup in it and stuff before, so that's not a concern. But as a part of learning about feeding babies, and I've read actually a couple of different books on raising healthy, happy eaters, and one specifically on baby-led weaning. A lot of the stuff I've read says that you don't need to hold back on spices for babies. I don't mean spicy foods like chilies, but I mean spices like cinnamon and nutmeg and maybe a little bit of ginger. So I'm adding some of those things into the baby food that I'm making. Just because he's a baby doesn't mean that the food needs to be bland.
I hear the sound of empty streets. Yesterday has gone to sleep. So all that's left is you and me.
So in this butternut squash, I did add some nutmeg and started blending that up and just added water as needed till it was done. I put this into a glass Pyrex dish because my super cubes were full and figured I would give Owen some of this fresh stuff. And then once the applesauce was done, I could pop those out and add some of the extra butternut squash in there and kind of just keep rotating.
Quiet voices in the night. Time is running out of sight.
Next up, I put all of the carrots into the blender with a little bit of ginger and water, and I thought I was just going to do carrot ginger water, and it was just not enough food. I could have added more water to have it blend up easier, but in the big blender, it didn't make a ton of sense, and adding the sweet potato in, it was able to blend up a lot easier. So I peeled that sweet potato, took the skin off of it, and tossed it in. So it's now a combo of carrot and sweet potato, and he actually loves this one.
Hold my hand and hear the words I say. Close your eyes and let us fade away. Build a secret place for you and me. Let our minds be caught up in a dream. look into each other's eyes.
So that's kind of it for today's Sophisticated Saturday. I am going to finish up with this. I'm adding a few more spices in. You probably saw that Jim is home and hanging out. So I am going to wrap it up, call it a day, put this away, label it. If you liked today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, I will see you guys later.